Stokes is the development director at the Show Me Institute, also a policy guru, and he's been on the show for 17 years now. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning.
Uber is
people love it.
St. Louis is the largest metropolitan area without Uber in the country.
What's up with that?
Without the mainline Uber service of
Yes,
Uber X.
yes.
Because we do have the premium sedan Uber service, which I have ridden on several occasions, and which is nice. It's convenient. It's pricey, but it's supposed to be pricey.
What's interesting is Uber, the high-end luxury service, is acceptable, but the Uber regular service isn't acceptable. So that's really interesting.
We're snobs.
Why is that? How is that legal?
Well, that was a choice by the taxicab commission.
Yes.
And what they did, as I understand it, they allowed the high-end sedan service to come in, and then they, went and carefully limited the number of high-end sedan licenses out there. So there's really not very many of these.
Crafty.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really prior license holders of the sedan license using Uber to get customers now.
I see. So they're just basically they're using Uber to promote the existing businesses.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, they're helping them get customers.
Right. Okay.
But Uber wants to come in with Uber X, which is the main ride-sharing, taxicab-like service that would serve
and
thousands of St. Louisans.
How can it be that the Taxicab Commission is so powerful, more powerful than all the other taxi commissions around the country, that these other taxi commissions can't keep out Uber and yet we can?
Well, I think it's because our Taxicab Commission operates to a large degree independently, meaning once you're appointed to it by the mayor or the county executive, I mean, it's a state-created commission made up of members appointed by the county executive and the mayor, so nobody's ultimately responsible for overseeing it except itself.
Right.
So it operates, I believe, functionally more independently than the cab commissions in many other cities that are going to report more directly to elected officials. And that's, in some instances, that can be a good thing. I like that at MoDOT, not every highway commission decision of where to build a road is subject to where every state senator and state rep wants you to spend the road money.
Right.
But there's also bad examples of it, and this is a great one because political pressure you can bring political pressure on the mayor, the board of aldermen, the county council, the county executive to allow Uber, but they can only do so much to move the taxicab commission.
Right. So what's the latest? So Uber is now making another push.
Uber was going to keep making a push. I mean, I think this is an unbelievable market for Uber or Lyft, or it's not about Uber, it's about ride sharing generally for us.
I agree.
Right.
Because
we need
St. Louisans don't use cabs a lot.
No.
My wife and I use cabs fairly frequently. When I went to college out in Connecticut, not that far from New York City, I got used to taking cabs.
Where'd you go to school?
Fairfield University.
Oh, I think I knew that.
You did know that.
Yeah.
So I'm used to taking cabs in my life, and not a lot of St. Louisans do. So I think when Uber gets here, there's this untapped market of people who aren't used to taking taxi cabs or ride sharing that can really be brought to serve the people of this community like crazy.
What's the latest? I mean, how does Uber enter into the marketplace?
Well, the Taxicab Commission is going to have to change its opinion, and I don't know if they do that through a compromise with Uber or if they just fold or how this works. Hopefully it'll happen soon. Now Uber has launched a petition, which you can go to their website and check on St. Louis. They're trying to get people to sign in favor of bringing Uber X here. But it is very frustrating that they're not able to break through the Metropolitan Taxicab Commission. Let's be very clear. There's nothing about the taxi market in St. Louis that's so complex that they can operate in every other big city in America, but there's safety concerns here that are different that we need to be protected. I mean, this is out-and-out protectionism of the Metropolitan Taxicab Commission, keeping out competition and keeping out innovation and hurting the people of this region.
Do we know how much Uber has hurt the taxicab business in other cities?
Well, I would phrase it as new competition has helped the people in other cities.
Helped the people, but
absolutely, existing taxi cabs
you
in other cities are existing taxi cabs are the new competition is definitely hurting them.
Sure.
In San Francisco, as I've read the stats, and my colleague Joe Miller is the one who's written most carefully about this at showmeinstitute.org. I mean, absolutely, the vast majority of rides shared rides now in San Francisco are Uber, and the taxi cabs out there have been lost an enormous amount of market share. The problem is they intentionally kept down the number of taxi cabs in San Francisco in the first place in order to make them all more profitable. So they have, for years, have been restricting competition to make it profitable.
And that hurt them now.
Well,
Right.
and in New York,
And that's what they're doing in St. Louis.
where you'd buy a medallion, you have to buy a medallion, right? And that's worth millions of dollars, right? In New York, or it used to be worth millions of dollars.
Right. The cost of these medallions is
Right.
coming down rapidly
Right.
as
The-
new entrants into the market are taking away your monopoly power.
Your official sort of license, right? The little metal thing you'd put on your roof of the car that would show that you are a licensed cab driver. Let me ask you this question though, because it's sort of, I sold something recently on Craigslist, and they came to the house and they purchased it on Craigslist. It was a piece of furniture. And everybody said to me, oh, it's a good thing he wasn't an axe murderer. And as a matter of fact, when the person got out of the car, I said, hey, are you an axe murderer? And he says, no, are you an axe murderer? I said, no,
Yeah,
so
that's
we're
right,
good.
right back at you.
So I don't know what would have happened if he said, well, I kind of, sometimes, not all the time. I don't know what would have happened. But so you're leaving the airport in New York, and these guys come up to you, and they say, hey, do you want to ride? Do you want to ride? Do you want to ride? Hey, how about this? I have a nice town car. How about a ride? And for a split second, you're like, yeah, I'll take that ride. And then you think, this could be any crazy coming along with a car to chop you up. But if the person has a cab and an official license and a big yellow sticker on the side, you're assuming it's safe.
I'm going to be honest. Right now, I feel safer taking the cab because
Right.
I don't know
so,
enough
So
about
my question is, as much as you want Uber, and I've taken Uber, there is a sense that security-wise and everything else, aren't you safer? And don't cabs pay more to be safer than, say, one of these ride-sharing companies?
I don't believe so. And I think if you read what Joe Miller's written at showmeinstitute.org, he'll explain it in more detail than I will over the next minute here.
Right.
But that's what the driver ranking system on Uber or Lyft or other Sidecar, which is another company, is for. That you can go on and look that this driver, this Uber driver, this Lyft driver that's coming to pick you up, you have their name, you have their driving record, you have a whole system of prior customers of that Uber driver that can rank he or she for how they do.
Right.
And presumably, if some of them were picked up and never arrived at their chosen location, that would be noted somewhere.
Right.
But you've got entire customer histories, and the cabbies can rank the drivers, the Uber drivers, the Lyft drivers can rank their customers. So if you're a total jerk and you try and run out without paying, you probably won't get picked up the next time. They've got this great online system, and that's what Joe Miller talks about so much, is that the safety arguments of how do you know where you're going? You'll be taken on a terrible route.
Right.
Well, now everybody's got a cell phone with GPS that can tell you that you're going west when they should be taking you east. And the safety arguments are so different now thanks to technology. And all Uber, Lyft, and other ride-sharing companies do is adapt new technology, because the information asymmetry, to use sort of the econ term there, is radically decreased now in the business. And customers have every tool at their disposal to be safe, to be treated fairly, and that's one of the reasons why Uber and Lyft are succeeding now. This model, not possible 5 years ago,
Right.
under prior technology, just with a cell phone, because you didn't have the interacting social media way to know who was coming, to know that they've done 500 rides in the past
Right.
couple months and they're all working out well.
I would make the argument that if the taxi cabs companies truly supported the community would take cabs much more. But because it's such a poorly serviced area, we don't think of taxis. We think of a friend, or we think of anything but a taxi, because it's just so poorly served. We just don't think of it.
Absolutely. I mean, you're, as somebody who takes taxis,
Right.
and has been, left places and thought I'd get a cab in 10 to 15 minutes, and not like, oh, I got to have one here in a minute. I mean, I know it's not Manhattan.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and waited 45 minutes to an hour.
Right,
In
right.
places where I should be able to get a cab quickly.
Right.
Right.
Like, I'm not calling from from your house in Cottleville here.
It should be there momentarily.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
I've waited.
no,
I've
right.
waited way
To
too
your
long,
house.
and this is intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Right.
restrict the number of people in the industry in order to increase profitability for the current license holders, and that's unconscionable.
So bottom line it for me. How long are we beholden to the taxicab commission until they allow these ride-sharing companies in which every other market in America has these ride-sharing companies?
Well, I think we're beholden until hopefully they compromise and change their opinion due to public pressure. But if you talk about legally speaking, until the existing taxi cab commission is independent, unless the state changes the law, and there was a proposal to do so in the last legislative session,
right,
to allow a statewide license for transportation networking companies, which is what they would call Uber and Lyft, to sort of override local taxi cab commissions.
Right.
But if they don't do that,
well, why is it regulated to the taxi cab commission? It's not a taxi. It's ride sharing. It's very different.
I agree completely. But the ride-sharing company has
chosen not to.
The taxi cab commission, sorry for misspeaking, has chosen that they are covered, and the law so far has been on their side. I mean, remember how quickly they were able to shut down Lyft when Lyft came to St. Louis a year ago and tried to operate,
right?
And they got a legal injunction saying you're going to be in serious trouble if your drivers keep doing this.
Right.
Wow.
They shut Lyft out. I think it was a poor choice,
right,
but they've got a lot of power, and hopefully, whether state law changes or political pressure, which is not as strong as it should be,
right,
and the politicians, Mayor Slay, the county executive, and others, I think they need to be doing a lot more here. But hopefully public pressure from ordinary St. Louisans is really going to get it.
We should note that these ride-sharing organizations are available in southern Illinois. You can go from southern Illinois, and they can drop you off here in the St. Louis metropolitan area or in Missouri. They're just not allowed to pick you up in Missouri.
So you have
Pick
no
you
way
up
home.
in St. Louis.
In St. Louis.
If they took you out to Jefferson County or St. Charles, they could. And Kansas City now has all of Uber. Uber is now fully operating in Kansas City. There's no other big city in America that doesn't have it. It operates in the Metro East. It operates in the other parts of Missouri.
Right.
There's nothing special about St. Louis. They're trying to protect the taxicab monopoly and hurt average St. Louis consumers.
David Stokes, when can we read you? When can we see you?
We have a great deal of information up on this at showmedaily.org, our blog, showmeinstitute.org, our website, and people can follow me on Twitter at David C. Stokes.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Stokes from the Show Me Institute. Have a good week.
Thanks, McGraw. Thanks, Aaron.
8:47 traffic, weather, and John Hadley going to give us a little preview of the Women's USA game tonight against Colombia. That's next on